Hi everyone, my name is Anouk and welcome to my virtual presentation on how to anticipate the mediation of values with stakeholders, a designerly approach to technomoral scenarios. Before I dive into the content, let me briefly introduce the team to you. My name is Anouk Geenen and I work as a PhD candidate at the University of Twente. Here I work together with Geenen&MatosCastano, who is a postdoc at the Design Lab of the University of Twente, van der Voort, a professor in human-centered design, and Peter Verbeek, a professor in human technology relations. Together, we work on a project designing for controversies in responsible smart cities. With this project, we aim to design a collaboration platform that supports the responsible design of our future smart cities. For those of you unfamiliar with the concept of a smart city, let me briefly introduce it to you. A smart city is often depicted as the image you see right here, a city with ubiquitous computing. The ultra-connected city not only offers direct digital connections between the people, the citizens, but also a direct digital connection between the various elements of the urban fabric. This happens via the infamous Internet of Things infrastructure. For example, here in a city like Amsterdam, the bridges can sense when a boat is nearing and as such automatically open at the right time. We see a connection between the boat, the sensor, and the bridge, a direct communication between those elements. Now, this digitization and datafication of the city stems from the ideal of creating a more efficient urban space. Measuring will give us insight into mobility and waste disposal processes, and as such help us to create more sustainable and optimal city processes. The concept of the smart city is much questioned and critiqued, however, for it leaves out reflections on how all the smartness will affect our social interactions and our general experience of the city. This latter aspect is also part of our ongoing research on smart cities. Today, I would like to share with you part of this ongoing work that focuses on the question, how can efforts in philosophy of technology and design enhance each other when anticipating the future of the smart city? The image you see right here depicts the interdisciplinary realm in which this research finds itself. And in the following presentation, I hope to convince you why combining these efforts is a worthwhile endeavor. Philosophy of technology helps us to understand the impact of technology on the world around us. It explains how our experience and perceptions are mediated by technology and how, in turn, our experience and perceptions also shape new technology. Technomoral scenarios are a specific method developed to discuss the mediation of our moral frameworks. How does technology affect the values by which we evaluate technology? By creating a greater understanding of this mutual interaction, we are better able to anticipate and evaluate our prospective smart city futures. Then moving on to the field of design. Design is a way of showing, telling, and experiencing a new world. This can take various forms, from product to process or policy, tangible or intangible, but often with a great visual stimulus. We specifically zoom in on two fields of design. Speculative design is an area of design that focuses on design as speculation, provocation, and storytelling, rather than design as a problem-solving or product-producing effort. Then, participatory design is focused on creating the right tools, methods, and setting to involve multiple stakeholders in the conversation, and views each participant, from layman to CEO, as expert of their own experience, and therefore bringing a relevant perspective to the table. Starting then with technomoral scenarios, as that is also where this research originates from, the concept of technomoral scenarios. Now, in order to anticipate the impact of emerging technologies on our society, the scenario approach is a well-known and highly applied method within the field of anticipation. This method is based on both knowledge of the existing technology and its surroundings, as on imagination in order to think creatively about possible and multiple futures. The technomoral scenario approach is a distinct leg of these socio-technical imaginaries, as it focuses on discussing the technological mediation of our moral framework. So as mentioned before, on how technology affects our values by which we then evaluate our technology. Rather unsurprisingly, the co-evolution of technology and morality is complex and therefore challenging to anticipate. The authors have listed the following steps to go through this process. They start by sketching the moral landscape. In order to create a good understanding of the present-day starting point, a historical analysis of the evolution of the moral regime and its past controversies is made. Next up is generating moral controversies. This is done by introducing the emerging technology under consideration into the moral landscape. Next, moral imagination is used to describe the interaction with society and the potential ethical controversies that may follow. These controversies are modeled by reflecting on past ethical challenges. The last step is to construct closure of these controversies by judging the plausibility of various resolutions. This is done by combining both moral trends and considering past solutions. As you can see, this approach requires great levels of historical knowledge on ethical debates and on socio-technical developments. This makes the approach challenged by an epistemological deficit. The method is highly expert-based and does not emphasize the involvement of stakeholders, which can bring additional situated knowledge and experience to improve the scenarios. A more participatory approach would suit the rationale of technomoral scenarios and is definitely encouraged by the authors. The question, however, is how? Stakeholder engagement or participatory scenario making is no new concept in the world of scenarios and beyond. However, when it comes to the combination of ethical issues and stakeholder engagement, the path is less clearly cut out. To learn about ways to shape such a participatory activity, I suggest to find inspiration in the field of participatory design. Design has a long-standing tradition in creating tools, techniques, and approaches for stakeholder involvement and participation. Over the last decades, designers have shifted focus from the user as a subject to the user as a co-creator. A fundamental idea to this approach is that the users can have a voice in the design process without needing to speak the language of professionals. So in this case, without needing to know all the intricate details of the ethical debate. As such, the design process itself is as relevant as the output or the design of the object itself. How can the design process be designed such that people can participate in it? What kind of design tools and methods do we need for that? A key concern of participatory design is therefore to empathize with the users. By understanding what they need to express themselves, we can empower them to share their views and as such create a better product or a better future scenario. In order to do this, different techniques can be used. For example, personas, games, or more design by doing methods such as prototyping and mockups. Another relevant approach for meaningful participation and also I would suggest meaningful ethical deliberation with stakeholders is the field of speculative design. This approach is distinct by a focus on critical thinking about possible future, rather than a more solutionist approach that we see in the traditional field of design that is focused on creating objects and providing solutions. The emerging field of speculative design is closely related to other emerging practices, such as design fiction or experiential futures. All these methods have in common that they seek to transform notions of possible futures into flesh, into matter, and into tangible action. To mediate possible futures, a wide range of possible media is suggested, from prototype to art installations, drama, theater, or virtual reality. They all aim to take the topic under discussion from abstract to actual, by enabling real life and embodied interaction. As such, speculative design is also a critique to current practices for not being engaging enough when it comes to complex issues. Stuart Candy, who is the founder of the experiential futures line of thinking, for example, criticizes how most mediums are too abstract to engage people effectively. For example, white papers, graphs, or large textual documents. He therefore also argues the value of making existing medium of scenarios. He therefore also argues the added value of making the existing medium of scenarios more tangible. By actual experience with a prototype, a different level of engagement can be achieved. As mentioned, this field of speculative design, design fiction, and experiential futures are still emerging fields. With this graph, I hope to show you where these different efforts position themselves. And on this graph, you see a mapping on the axis from constrained approaches to more unconstrained approaches of anticipation, where with the constrained approaches, we see the strategic efforts, such as strategic foresight, which are heavily based on statistical models, moving to a more unconstrained approach via design towards art, which are way more based on imagination, speculation about the future. Speculative design and design fictions find themselves in the middle and are presented as different flavors of speculative design. As of now, I have mostly argued my work starting from the technomoral scenarios and how to and that they would benefit from a more participatory approach, and that design could bring knowledge to do so. However, I want to emphasize that this disciplinary, or rather interdisciplinary crossing is not a one-way street. It's not only such that design can help technomoral scenarios and can improve that approach, it's also the other way around. Speculative design and other emerging design efforts show great interest in relating more closely to societal challenges. However, they are still developing the theoretical knowledge on the mutual interaction between technology or design, society, and morality. As such, speculative design can also learn greatly from efforts in philosophy of technology. I therefore also really want to emphasize the truly interdisciplinary character of this endeavor and highlight why it makes sense to combine insights from multiple fields. Design is looking for ways to incorporate the societal awareness and knowledge on the dynamics of design and society, whereas technomoral scenarios is looking for ways to involve multiple stakeholders, but needs tools and methods to make an abstract topic more engaging. Now, how have we combined these efforts in our own research? I would like to briefly share some reflections on that with you. And for that, I want to present you 3 methods that we have been developing so far, starting with the method on the top right, the Futuring City card game. This card game was presented at the Dutch Design Week last year, and it is based on the game called The Thing from the Future, developed by Stuart Kennedy. This game invites participants to create a short story or narrative on a future smart city, based on 4 different cards that relate to a place in the city, a technology, a value, and a future trend. The aim of this card game was to let players reflect on specific elements of smart cities, unexpected combinations of cards, thereby stimulate also imagination. Part of the assignment was to specifically focus on the interaction between technology, the technology card that they picked, and the value card. Next up is the scenario that we developed, which you see on the left hand. It's a scenario and role-playing exercise presented at the Design Research Conference earlier this year. In this workshop, we have created a fictional environment of the city of Nevertire. And participants are invited to take on a specific stakeholder role, and in this fictional context, reflect on different and changing values from a specific stakeholder perspective. Lastly is the value prototyping workshop that you see in the bottom right corner. This workshop was set up to create a more tangible interaction with the concept of value change. In this workshop, students were asked to create a city based on one specific value, such as privacy or love or autonomy. After introducing disrupting technology, students were then asked to reflect on how this technology would affect the city and subsequently also affect the initial value by which the city was built. Would this value, would love or privacy or autonomy still be present? And if so, in what shape and form? Then I would like to share with you some preliminary results. What we have seen is that people are very excited about this topic, and they are very inspired by this interdisciplinary intersection. People become very intrigued about the concept of value change and are very eager to discuss it. However, the discussion is often shaped in terms of more or less privacy, friendship, autonomy. So a challenge for the next iteration of workshops would be to create the next level of depth in this discussion. Furthermore, we see that participants are very creative in their contributions. The imaginations that they share run from solution development to true design fiction to anticipation based on current trends. And although these results are promising and the feedback from participants as well is positive, we also acknowledge some challenges ahead of us to take into account when further iterating on this approach. For example, how to avoid the pitfall of speculative ethics or presentism when discussing ethics in a participatory context. In the upcoming months, we'll iterate on these existing approaches and also develop some new approaches, such as a co-design fiction workshop, and we are also working on a speculative design installation to be placed in a city, as COVID allows, hopefully. This brings me to the final slide of this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Please have a look at our website and our Twitter account if you'd like to stay updated on the Smart Cities project, and I look forward to discuss with you in a bit. Thank you.